another Brothers Grimm reading for today. If you're wondering what the B-roll footage in front of you, I just wanted to put something up. So it's not just my voice, so just enjoy some nice scenery while you listen to my voice, but feel free to turn the screen off as well. I think when I listen to ASMR, I'm generally not looking at the screen anyway. I'll usually close the tab or whatever. But there's something nice for you to look at if you want. Okay, I'm gonna get straight into the stories. I can't actually remember which ones I read last time, but it probably doesn't matter too much. Okay. So this one is called Mother Hole. A widow had 2 daughters, one who was beautiful and illustrious, the other ugly and lazy. But she was fonder of the ugly and lazy one, because she was her own daughter. The other had to do all the housework and carry out the ashes like a Cinderella. Every day, the poor maiden had to sit near a well by the road and spin until her fingers bled. Now, one day, it happened that the reel became quite bloody, and when the maiden learned how the well to rinse it, it slipped out of her hand and fell to the bottom. She burst into tears, ran to her stepmother, and told her about the accident. But the stepmother gave her a terrible scolding, and was very cruel. If you let the reel fall in, then you better get it out again. The maiden went back to the well, but did not know where to begin. She was so distraught that she jumped into the well to fetch the reel, but she lost consciousness. When she awoke and regained her senses, she was in a beautiful meadow, where the sun was shining and thousands of flowers were growing. She walked across the meadow, and soon she came to a baker's oven full of bread. But the bread was yelling, take me out, or else I'll burn. I've been baking long enough." She went up to the oven and took out all the loaves, one by one, with the baker's peel. After that, she moved on and came to a tree full of apples. Shake me," the tree exclaimed. "My apples all ripe." She shook the tree till the apples fell like raindrops, and she kept shaking until they had all come down. After she had gathered them and stacked them in a pile, she moved on. At last she came to a small cottage, where an old woman was looking out of a window. She had such big teeth, the maiden was scared and wanted to run away. But the old woman cried after her, "Why are you afraid, my dear child? Stay with me, and if you do all the housework properly, everything will turn out well for you. Only you must make my bed nicely and carefully, and give it a good shaking so the feathers fly. Then it will snow on earth, for I am Mother Hole." And I haven't seen this before, but there's a little footnote in the book. It says, whenever it snowed in olden days, people in Hessia used to say Mother Hole is making her bed. The more you know. Since the old woman had spoken so kindly to her, the The maiden plucked up her courage and agreed to enter her service. She took care of everything to the old woman's satisfaction, and always shook the bed so hard that the feathers flew about like snowflakes. In return, the woman treated her well. She never said an unkind word to the maiden, and she gave her roasted or boiled meat every day. After the maiden had spent a long time with Mother Hole, she became sad. At first she did not know what was bothering her, but finally she realized she was homesick. Even though everything was 1,000 times better there than at home, she still had a desire to return. At last, she said to Mother Hole, "I've got a tremendous longing to return home, and even though everything is wonderful here, I've got to return to my people." "I'm pleased that you want to return home," Mother Hole responded, "and since you've served me so faithfully, I myself shall bring you up there again." She took the maiden by the hand and led her to a large door. When it was opened, the maiden was standing right beneath the doorway. An enormous shower of gold came pouring down, and all the gold stuck to her, so that she became completely covered with it. "I want you to have this, because you've been so industrious," said Mother Hole. And she also gave her back the reel that had fallen into the well. Suddenly the door closed, and Maiden found herself back up on earth, not far from her mother's house. When she had entered the yard, the cock was sitting on the well and crowed, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, my golden maiden, what's new with you?" She went inside to her mother, and since she was covered with so much gold, her mother and sister gave her a warm welcome. Then she told them all about what had happened to her, and when her mother heard how she had obtained so much wealth, she wanted to arrange it so her ugly and lazy daughter could have the same good fortune. Therefore, her daughter had to sit near the well and spin, and she made the reel bloody by sticking her fingers into a thorn bush and pricking them. Oh dear. After that, she threw the reel down into the well and jumped in after it. Just like her sister, she reached the beautiful meadow and walked along the same path. When she came to the oven, the bread cried out again, take me out, or else I'll burn. I've been baking so long enough." But the lazy maiden answered, "I've no desire to get myself dirty." She moved on, and soon she came to the apple tree that cried out, shake me, my apples are all ripe." However, the lazy maiden replied, "Are you serious? One of the apples could fall and hit my head." Thus she went on, and when she came to Mother Hole's cottage, she was not afraid, because she had already heard of the old woman's big teeth. She hired herself out to her right away. On the first day, she made an effort to work hard and obey Mother Hole when the old woman told her what to do, for the thought of gold was on her mind. On the second day, she started loafing, and on the third day she loafed even more. Indeed, she did not want to get out of bed in the morning, nor did she make Mother Hole's bed as she should have, and she certainly did not shake it hard, so the feathers flew. Soon Mother Hole became tired of this, and dismissed the maiden from her service. The lazy maiden was quite happy to go, and expected that now the shower of gold would come. Mother Hole led her to the door, but But as the maiden was standing beneath the doorway, a big kettle of pitch came pouring down over her instead of cold. "That's a reward for your services," Mother Hole said, and shut the door. The lazy maiden went home covered with pitch, and when the cock on the well saw her, it crowed, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, my maid, my dirty maiden, what's new with you?" The pitch did not come off the maiden, and remained on her as long as she lived. I always forget that these stories are actually really, really violent. When you read them, they're quite gruesome, which is one of the things that makes them so fascinating. That's not even kind of the worst of it. There are some really quite horrific tales in here, actually. They're just like kind of nice little surprises. Okay. Let's see what else I can read to you. Oh, okay, I'll read you this one. So this one, I think it's a bit of a shorter one. It's called The Godfather. Not the Mario Puzo novel. A poor man had so many children that she had already asked everyone in the world to be godfather, and when he had yet another child, there was nobody left to ask. He did not know what to do, and in his distress he lay down, fell asleep, and had a dream showing him that he should go outside the town gate and ask the first person he met to be godfather. When he awoke, he decided to undertake what the dream had shown. He went out in front of the gate and asked the first man he met to be godfather. The stranger gave him a little bottle of water and said, "This water has miraculous powers. You can cure the sick with it, but you must keep your eye on death. If he's standing at the head of the sick person, then give the patient some of the water, and he'll get well. However, if death is standing at the patient's feet, there is nothing that can be done, and the patient must die." From then on, the man could always predict whether a sick person could be saved or not. He became famous because of his skill and earned a great deal of money. One day he was summoned to the king's child, and when he entered the room, he saw Death standing by the child's head and cured him with the water. The same thing happened a second time, but the third time Death was standing at the foot of the bed, and the child had to die. Once the man decided to visit the godfather and tell him how well he had been doing with the water. When he entered the house, though, he noticed there were some very strange things happening. On the first landing, he encountered a shovel and a broom, having a terrible argument that led to blows. "Where does the godfather live?" he asked them. "One flight up," answered the broom. When he came to the second landing, he saw a bunch of dead fingers lying there. "Where does the godfather live?" he asked. "One flight up," replied the fingers. On the third landing, there was a pile of skulls who told him to go up one flight. On the fourth landing, he saw some fish sizzling in a pan over a fire. They were frying themselves, and also told him one flight up. After he had climbed to the 5th floor, he came to a door of a room and looked through the keyhole. There he saw the godfather, who had a pair of long horns. When he opened the door and went inside, the godfather quickly jumped into bed and covered himself. "Godfather, you certainly have a strange household," the man said. When I came to the first landing, a broom and shovel were quarrelling so violently that they gave each other terrible blows. How can you be so simple-minded? said the godfather. That was the kitchen boy, and the maid was just talking to each other. On the second landing I saw dead fingers lying about. My goodness, how foolish you are. Those were salsify roots. On the third landing there were skulls lying about. You stupid man, those were cabbage heads. On the fourth landing I saw fish frying themselves. Just as he said that, the fish came in and served themselves on a platter. And when I came to the fifth landing, I looked through the keyhole and saw you, godfather. You had such long, long horns. Now that's just not true. The man became frightened and ran away. Indeed, there is no telling what the godfather might have done to him if he had stayed. So that was a bit of a creepy one. And on that note, I think that might be our time for tonight. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope everything's okay with the sound. I'm still experimenting with the new microphone and settings and everything. It's hard. It's very difficult. So please be patient with me.